The Birth of Evil. Part 1. The Question of Evil. What is happening in Gaza right now is not a war. It is not a conflict. It is not a geopolitical dispute between two nations with competing claims to the same land. What is happening in Gaza is something far older and far darker. It is a ritual sacrifice. You have seen the videos on social media. You have seen the buildings collapsing, the children pulled from rubble, the hospitals overwhelmed. You have seen the numbers. 47% of the population of Gaza is under 18 years old. Nearly half of those being killed are children. And what is most striking about what is happening is that we can all see it. The Israelis are not hiding it. They are not disguising their actions. In fact, it is almost as though they want us to see it. They want us to be horrified. They want the world to hate them. Why would anyone act this way? If you wanted to eliminate a population, there are far more effective and far more secret methods. You could poison the water supply. You could introduce a fast-acting cancer into the food system. You could do any number of things that would achieve the same result without a single camera crew or social media post. The technology exists. The means are available. And yet Israel chooses to do this in full view of the entire world. The answer is that this is intentional. They want the world to hate them because their religion demands it. In the most extreme forms of Jewish eschatology, there is a belief that at the end of days, Israel will fight the entire world. Every nation will turn against them. And when that happens, God will intervene, and Israel will triumph. The extremists within the Israeli government are not trying to win a war. They are trying to accelerate the end of the world. They are trying to force the prophecy to fulfill itself. This is not unique to Israel. Human sacrifice has been practiced by every major civilization in history. The Aztecs built temples filled with thousands of human skulls. Before every major military campaign, they would commit mass murder of their enemies in public rituals. The Phoenicians were famous for child sacrifice. The Romans wrote histories condemning the Phoenicians for this practice, but the Romans themselves practiced human sacrifice on a massive scale. After every major war, they would capture the leaders of their defeated enemies, parade them through the streets of Rome in what they called a triumph, and then gather them at the temple of Jupiter. There, at the feet of their highest god, they would strangle their enemies to death. They did not call it sacrifice. They disguised it, but it was sacrifice nonetheless. The question we must ask ourselves is why? Why do human beings do this? Why does every civilization, at every moment in history, return to the same dark practice? The answer lies in a principle that has governed human societies since the beginning. Transgression creates cohesion. Breaking the ultimate taboo unites a people like nothing else can. Part 2. Monkey Island. To understand how this works, let us conduct a thought experiment. Imagine an island. We do not know where it is, but it is surrounded by an infinite ocean. There is no escape. At the center of the island, there is a hill. It is safe there. But everywhere else, roaming in packs, are flesh-eating monkeys. They are relentless. They are countless. They want to kill you and eat you. And the resources you need to survive, the trees for wood, the rivers for water, the animals for food, are all in the areas where the monkeys hunt. One day, for reasons we do not understand, 100 men are transported onto this island. They range in age from 15 to 65. They come from different countries. They speak different languages. They have different ethnicities, different religions, different customs. They are all poor. They have little education. They have nothing in common except that they are now trapped together in a nightmare. At first, you would expect them to give up. The situation is hopeless. They cannot communicate. They have no weapons. They have no training. They should lie down and die. But that is not what happens. What happens is the opposite. In the face of absolute hopelessness, they find a drive, a purpose, a spirit they did not know they had. They decide to fight. The first thing they do is develop a common language. It does not matter that some speak Chinese, some English, some Spanish, some Russian. They need to communicate, so they find a way. Within weeks, they have created a pidgin that everyone can understand. Within months, it has become a fully functional language of its own. Then they start telling stories. They tell each other where they came from, who they were, what they lost. These stories blend together. They become a common myth, a founding story of why they are here and what they must do. Before long, they come to believe that God has chosen them, that this island is not a punishment, but a test, that they are here to save the world. With this new religion, they develop rituals. Some of these rituals involve sex. Sex creates intimacy. It creates bonding. It breaks down the last barriers between strangers. Men who would never have touched each other in their old lives now become lovers, not out of preference but out of necessity. In a world without women, this is what holds the group together. They also need a leader, so they gather in a circle, and one by one, they speak. An older man, 65 years old, stands up. He is wise. He has experience. He has strategies for survival. He delivers a powerful speech about how to hunt the monkeys, how to build shelter, how to store food. Everyone is impressed. Then a young man stands up. He is 17. He is not articulate. He has no ideas. He does not give a speech. Instead, he stands in silence, looking at each person in the circle. Then, he takes out a knife. And without flinching, without crying, without even changing his expression, he cuts off his own hand. He holds it up for everyone to see. The blood pours onto the ground. He does not scream. He does not weep. He just looks at them, waiting. Who do they choose as their leader? The young man, of course. The one who has shown the greatest willingness to sacrifice. The old man becomes his advisor. But the leader is the one who proved he would die for the group. This is how cohesion is born. Not through speeches, not through ideas, not through democratic debate, through blood, through sacrifice, through the willingness to endure pain for the sake of others. Once the leader is chosen, something remarkable happens. The group transforms. Weak men become strong. Uneducated men become clever and strategic. They learn to fight. They learn to build. They learn to survive. And more than that, they develop something called synchronicity. They begin to act as one. They develop a hive mind. Let me give you an example of what this means. Imagine that one of the men wanders off to collect wood. He is attacked by monkeys. He is too far away to scream for help. Would his comrades know that he is in danger? Yes, they would feel it. They would not know how they knew. They would simply know that something was wrong, and they would go to him. This is not magic. This is what happens when human beings are bound together by shared trauma and shared purpose. Mothers feel this with their children. If your son is in France and gets hit by a car, you will know something is wrong before anyone calls you. You will pick up the phone. You will call him. When he does not answer, you will call the police. You do not know why you are doing this. You just know that you must. Now imagine another scenario. 10 men are out collecting wood. They are attacked by 100 monkeys. There is a rope bridge that leads to safety. 9 men cross. You are the last. The monkeys are about to swarm the bridge. You know that if they get across, your comrades will die. What do? You cut the rope. You do not think about it. You do not hesitate. You sacrifice yourself because the group matters more than your individual life. This happens in war all the time. A grenade lands in a trench. There is no time to throw it back. A soldier throws himself on top of it, absorbing the explosion with his body. He does not think. He does not calculate. He just acts. His comrades survive. He dies. And his death makes the remaining soldiers even more united, even more synchronized, even more dangerous. Now imagine that after 20 years of this, after surviving hell together, after developing a common language, a common religion, a common purpose, a hive mind, and a willingness to die for each other, imagine that all 100 men are suddenly transported back to the real world. They have their memories, they have their skills, they have their cohesion. What do you think they will do? They will come together again. They will share their experience with their children and grandchildren. They will pass down their rituals and their religion, and over time, they will conquer the world. Not through armies, not through politics, not through wealth, through unity, through the bond that was forged in fire. These 100 men become the secret elite. They are not the presidents or the prime ministers. Those are the faces, the puppets. The real power belongs to the descendants of Monkey Island, and their descendants after them. A handful of families, bound by blood and by secrets so dark that no outsider can ever fully understand. This is how power is created. This is how evil triumphs. Part 3. The Spartan Mirror. This is not just a thought experiment. History gives us real examples of this exact process. Consider Sparta. Sparta was a small city-state in ancient Greece, one of thousands, but Sparta became the most feared military power in the Greek world. How? Through a system of education that was, by any modern standard, barbaric. At the age of 5 or 6, Spartan boys were taken from their homes. They were placed in schools run not by adults but by older boys, aged 10 or 11. And what did these older boys do? They beat the younger boys. Every day from morning until night, the younger boys were hazed, humiliated, and physically abused. There was no formal education, no reading, no writing, no mathematics, just violence. But something strange happened. The boys learned to love each other. They learned that the only way to survive the brutality was to cooperate. They formed bonds tighter than any family. They became brothers in a way that biological brothers never could. When they hit puberty, around the age of 12 or 13, they entered a new phase. Each boy was assigned an older mentor, a soldier in his late 20s or early 30s. These mentors became their lovers. The younger boys learned to think like their mentors. They learned strategy, loyalty, and the hive mind. They learned to subsume their individual identity into the group. At 18, they graduated. But graduation required one final act. The Spartans had slaves called helots, conquered peoples who worked the fields. There was a curfew, No helot could be outside after dark. The graduating boys would hide in the fields at night, waiting. When a helot broke curfew, they would sneak up behind him and cut his throat. This was not punishment. This was sacrifice. And it was the final bonding ritual. Sparta was hated by every other Greek city-state. They thought the Spartans were disgusting, barbaric, inhuman. But Sparta was also the dominant military power in Greece for centuries. Their system worked. It produced soldiers who would rather die than retreat, who would throw themselves on grenades, or the ancient equivalent, without a moment's hesitation. Later, another Greek city-state, Thebes, copied the Spartan system but made it voluntary. They called their elite unit the Sacred Band, 300 soldiers, all lovers, who fought with a ferocity that terrified their enemies. The Sacred Band became the most effective fighting force in Greece. Then Macedonia copied the Theban system. Philip II of Macedon built the greatest army the world had ever seen using these exact principles. His son, Alexander the Great, used that army to conquer Persia and remake the world. In 338 BCE, at the Battle of Cheronea, Macedonia fought against the combined forces of Thebes and Athens. Macedonia destroyed them, but when the Theban army broke and ran, the Sacred Band did not run. They stood in the middle of the battlefield, 300 men, blocking the Macedonian advance so that their comrades could escape. They did not fear death. They welcomed it. They died to the last man, and their sacrifice became legend. This is what cohesion looks like. This is what transgression produces. Not cruelty for its own sake, but unity, power, the ability to act as one. Part 4. The logic of transgression. Let us now turn to game theory. Imagine a game with 1 million players. Only one can win. According to game theory, the best way to win is to cheat. If you follow the rules, you will never win. So you form secret alliances. You coordinate with other players without anyone knowing. The problem is that this strategy is obvious. Everyone thinks of it. So now everyone is forming secret alliances. How do you win? You must be part of as many powerful secret alliances as possible. You must be the intersection of multiple groups, each of which does not know you belong to the others. But secret societies have developed systems to ensure loyalty. They test you. They bind you. They make sure you will never betray them. So how do you belong to multiple groups without being destroyed by their competing demands? The answer is dissociation. You become a different person in each context. You are not lying. You are not pretending. You are, in that moment, genuinely that person. And because you are genuinely that person, you pass their tests. You feel their loyalty. You mean it when you swear allegiance. And then you walk into the next room and become someone else, and mean that too. Spies are selected for this exact quality. When intelligence agencies recruit operatives, the trait they search for is dissociation. Can this person become someone else quickly and completely? Can they leave their old self behind without grief, without guilt, without hesitation? In practice, they are looking for psychopaths, people who lack the internal friction that makes most of us hesitate when we're asked to betray. In the game of power, the person with the most multiple personalities wins. Now, here is the crucial insight. The greater the transgression, the greater the cohesion. Breaking a small taboo, a prank, a joke, a minor theft creates a small bond. Breaking a medium taboo, A crime, a betrayal, a secret shared, creates a medium bond. But breaking the ultimate taboo, the thing that every society, every religion, every moral system says you must never do, that creates an unbreakable bond. Because if you have done that together, you can never go back. You can never tell anyone. You are bound to each other for life. And if one of you falls, you all fall. So you protect each other with a ferocity that outsiders cannot understand. This is why secret societies practice the darkest rituals, not because they enjoy them, though some may, but because those rituals create the strongest possible cohesion. They forge the members into a single entity, a hive mind, a family that cannot be broken. And here is the most disturbing part. When you transgress, when you break a taboo, you feel empowered, you feel liberated, you feel more alive than you have ever felt. The fear, the adrenaline, the rush of doing something forbidden, it is addictive. So you do it again, and each time the bond grows stronger. Each time you descend deeper into the darkness, and each time you tell yourself that you are not evil. You are special. You have discovered a secret that ordinary people cannot handle. You have accessed a higher power. This is the psychology of evil. It is not that evil people are different from you. It is that they have gone further down a path that is open to everyone. They have broken more taboos. They have formed tighter bonds. And they have convinced themselves that their darkness is actually light. Part 5. The architecture of the spirit world. To understand why transgression works, we must go deeper. We must understand the architecture of reality itself. Let us return to Kant. Kant taught us that we can never know objective reality. There is the noumenon, the thing in itself, which we can never access directly. We can only know the phenomenon, the thing as it appears to us, filtered through our senses, our brains, our language, our culture. Time and space are not features of the external world. They are filters inside our minds. We add them to raw experience so that we can process it. This creates 3 problems. First, what is the noumenon? If we can never know it, what is it? Second, who gave us these filters? Where do they come from? Third, if we are all seeing the world through our own individual lenses, how do we know we are seeing the same world? Why does my red look like your red? Why does my tree look like your tree? Hegel answered these questions. He said the noumenon is Geist, spirit. The spiritual world is the real world. The material world is just the outer shell. And Geist is not static. It is constantly becoming, expanding, growing. The German word Geist contains 3 English derivatives: ghost, geyser, and gist. Ghost, because it is a parallel reality that exists alongside ours. Geyser, because it explodes upward, constantly creating new forms. Gist, because it is the essence, the core, the true meaning of things. So the material world is not the foundation of reality. It is the surface. Beneath it, layer after layer, is the spiritual world. And at the deepest layer is the monad, the one, the source of everything. Call it God, call it the Absolute, call it the Sun. The name does not matter. Plato and the Gnostics taught that the monad creates by breathing. Each breath is a vibration. These vibrations create dyads, pairs of complementary forces. The dyads create more complex beings, layer upon layer, dimension upon dimension, until at the very bottom, at the slowest vibration, matter appears. The physical world is not separate from the spiritual world. It is just the densest, slowest, most distant layer. The purpose of life, according to Plato, is to return to the monad, to ascend through the layers, to shed the illusions of matter, to reunite with the source. And the way to do this is through knowledge, philosophy, geometry, the pursuit of truth. Dante offered a different path. He said the monad is love, and love is not a rule or a commandment. It is a magnet. The monad loves us, and we carry a spark of that love inside us. The way to return to the monad is not through knowledge alone, but through love itself. To love others unconditionally, to act with compassion, to see the divine spark in every person. But here is the problem. The monad gave us free will. True love requires freedom. You cannot force someone to love you. So the monad does not interfere. It does not stop us from doing evil. It does not prevent suffering. Because to do so would be to take away our freedom, and without freedom, love is meaningless. This is why evil exists. Not because God wants it, but because God trusts us to choose. And the choices we make, every single one, send vibrations through the spiritual world. Love creates high-frequency vibrations that ascend toward the monad. Hatred creates low-frequency vibrations that sink into the lower dimensions, what the ancients called hell. Not a place of eternal punishment, but a place of storage, a place where the darkness collects because it cannot return to the source. Now we can understand transgression. When the powerful break the ultimate taboo, they are not just breaking a social rule. They are aligning themselves with a specific frequency. They are locking onto a particular layer of the spiritual world, a dark layer, a low vibration, a place where evil beings dwell. And by doing the same act together, they synchronize, their minds align. They become able to communicate telepathically, to act as one, to access powers that ordinary people cannot. This is not magic. This is mechanics. The spiritual world operates according to laws just as physical as gravity, and the powerful have learned to manipulate those laws. They have learned that the darkest acts produce the strongest cohesion. They have learned that by descending into hell together, they can control the world above. Part 6. The Birth of Monotheism. To understand how these secret societies came into being, we must trace the history of religion in the Western world. There have been 3 major stages: the mother goddess, polytheism, and monotheism. The mother goddess civilization emerged with agriculture. In an agricultural society, you have 2 problems: making your crops grow and having enough children to work the fields. The solution was a religion centered on the womb. The woman's womb was seen as a divine portal, a cave through which spirits entered the physical world. Women were in control. They had high status. The goddess was represented as a bird because birds have dominion over the sky, and life comes from the sky. Paired with a bull, a symbol of fertility and virility. In this world, there was no private property. Everything belonged to everyone. There was no hierarchy. And sex was a community act. Fertility rituals involved group sex, because a woman wanting the best DNA would mate with as many men as possible. This was not debauchery. It was religion. Then came war. As populations grew, resources became scarce. The most valuable resource was women, because women give birth. To motivate men to fight, they were offered a reward, a woman of their own. Private property was born. Marriage was born. The status of women declined, and the status of men rose. War also created a new religious concept, the pantheon. Each tribe had its own god. When tribes fought, the winner's god was seen as stronger. Over time, the gods were arranged in hierarchies, Zeus at the top, then Apollo, Ares, Aphrodite, and so on. This is polytheism. Many gods, arranged by power. Then came empire. The Roman Empire needed a religion that could unify its vast territories. They found it in Christianity, the first monotheistic religion. One God, one truth, one empire. Monotheism introduced three new concepts that had never been dominant before: truth, evil, and the individual. Truth, because if there is one God, there must be one truth. Moving toward that truth is good. Moving away from it is evil. Evil became a real force in the universe, not just a matter of bad luck or poor judgment. The individual, because your loyalty to God now mattered more than your loyalty to your family or community. You could step outside your tribe, your city, your nation, and follow your conscience. This was revolutionary, and it laid the groundwork for modernity. But here is the problem. These three concepts, truth, evil, the individual, are counterintuitive. You cannot derive them from first principles. They are not natural to human experience. They had to be imposed, and to impose them, the old ways had to be destroyed. The Romans spent centuries wiping out polytheism, but you cannot kill an idea. Ideas that are suppressed do not disappear. They go underground. The women of the mother goddess civilization, pushed out of power by war, created mystery schools. These were secret organizations where they preserved the old knowledge, especially the knowledge that mind leads to matter, that the spiritual world is real, that the universe is created through imagination. The mystery schools became popular among the elite, partly because they offered great sex. The old fertility rituals continued in secret. When Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire, the mystery schools became a threat. They were driven further underground. They became secret societies. The Knights Templar, the Rosicrucians, the Illuminati, the Freemasons. These are the descendants of those ancient mystery schools. And there are many more that we do not know about that have been around for far longer. Their purpose is to preserve the secret knowledge. The great secret is this: mind leads to matter. The material world is not the foundation of reality. The spiritual world is. And we are not trapped here. We can ascend. We can return to the monad. But to do so, we must reject the false god of monotheism. Part 7. The True History of the Bible. What do these secret societies believe about the Bible? They have an interpretation that is very different from what you are taught in church. Let us start with Noah. Why did God destroy the world? The official answer is that humanity had become wicked. But the secret answer is different. The wickedness was not human. It was the Nephilim. According to the Book of Enoch, which is not in the Standard Bible but is considered scripture by many secret societies, the Nephilim were the children of angels and human women. The angels came down from heaven, saw that human women were beautiful, and had sex with them. Their children were giants, heroes, warriors of renown: Hercules, Achilles, Theseus. All the great heroes of mythology were Nephilim. These Nephilim enslaved humanity. They taught them warfare, sorcery, and the cutting of roots and trees. They corrupted the world, so God sent the flood to destroy them. But the Nephilim were divine, so they could not be killed. Their bodies died, but their spirits became demons. And those demons are still here, still controlling the world. According to the secret societies, the richest and most powerful people in the world today are descendants of the Nephilim. They have been alive for thousands of years, manipulating human civilization from the shadows. Now consider Adam and Eve. Why did God forbid them from eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge? And why was the punishment so severe? The secret answer is that the God of the Old Testament is not the true God. He is the demiurge, a false god, a monster, created by accident by a lesser divine being named Sophia. Sophia tried to create something by herself without a partner to prove she was as powerful as the monad, but what she created was deformed, a monstrosity. Ashamed, she abandoned it, hiding it in a sea of clouds. The demiurge does not know that it was created. It believes that it is the one true God. And then it created us. It created the physical world as a prison. It created Adam and Eve to populate the prison. And it created the tree of knowledge as a test, not a test of obedience, but a trap. It knew that Adam and Eve would eat the fruit. It wanted them to, because by eating the fruit, they would become aware of their imprisonment. And that awareness is the first step toward escape. Read the Bible carefully. After Adam and Eve eat the fruit, God says to the other gods, note that he says us, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now he might reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. That is why God banished them, not because they disobeyed, because they were about to become gods themselves. Satan was telling the truth. The serpent said, "You will not die. Your eyes will be opened. You will be like God, knowing good and evil." And that is exactly what happened. Satan did not lie. God did. This is the secret that the mystery schools have preserved for thousands of years. The God of the Old Testament is not the true God. The true God is the monad, the source of love and light, who does not interfere in the material world because to do so would violate our free will. Jesus was sent by the monad to remind us of the truth. He was not the son of the demiurge. He was a cosmic being who came to tell us that we are not prisoners, that we carry a divine spark, that we can escape, and that is why they killed him. The Roman Empire, controlled by the Nephilim, could not allow the truth to be spoken, so they murdered the truth-teller. Just as they have always murdered truth-tellers, just as they will murder anyone who tries to wake you up. Part 8. Paradise. Lost. The greatest poem in the English language is John Milton's Paradise Lost. Milton was a member of the secret societies. He was a rebel, a freethinker, a passionate advocate of free speech, and when he went blind, he dictated his poem to secretaries, as if he were a prophet receiving divine revelation. Paradise Lost retells the story of the fall of man. But Milton's version is not what you learned in Sunday school. In Milton's telling, Satan is the hero. Let me read you two speeches from the poem. The first is spoken by Satan after he has been cast into hell. The other devils are despairing. They have lost the war against God. They will never defeat him. They are trapped in hell forever. Some propose building an empire. Some propose just sitting back and enjoying their damnation. But Satan is determined to seek vengeance. He announces that he will go to the Garden of Eden and corrupt humanity. No one else volunteers. The journey is too dangerous. They would have to escape hell, cross the abyss of space, find Earth, and then return. So Satan steps forward and says, "O progeny of heaven, imperial thrones, with reason have deep silence and demurred. Long is the way, and hard that out of hell leads up to light. Our prison strong, this huge convex of fire, outrageous to devour, immerses us ninefold, and gates of burning adamant barred over us prohibit all egress. These paths, if any pass, the void profound of unessential night receives him next, wide gaping, with utter loss of being threatens him, plunged in that abortive gulf. If then he escape into whatever world or unknown region, what remains him less than unknown in dangers and as hard escape? But I should ill become this throne, O peers, and this imperial sovereignty adorned with splendor, armed with power, if aught proposed and just of public moment in the shape of difficulty or danger could deter me from attempting. Wherefore do I assume these royalties, and not refuse to reign, refusing to accept as great a share of hazard as of honor? Do alike to him who reigns, and so much more to him who does more hazard as he above the rest. High honor sits. Go therefore, mighty powers, terror of heaven, though fallen, intend at home, while here shall be our home. What best may ease the present misery and render hell more tolerable, if there be cure or charm to respite or deceive or slack the pain of this ill mansion, intermit no watch against a wakeful foe, while I abroad through all the coasts of dark destruction seek deliverance for us all. This enterprise none shall partake with me. Satan is willing to go alone. He is willing to risk everything for his comrades. This is heroism. This is the same logic as the soldier jumping on the grenade. And the secret societies use this speech as an initiation ritual. When you join, you must be willing to go alone into the darkness, to sacrifice everything for the group. The second speech is even more important. It is Satan's argument to Eve, convincing her to eat the fruit. O sacred, wise, and wisdom-giving plant, mother of science, now I feel thy power within me clear, not only to discern things in their causes, but to trace the ways of highest agents deemed however wise. Queen of this universe, do not believe those rigid threats of death. Ye shall not die. How should you? By the fruit? It gives you life to knowledge. By the threatener? Look on me, me who have touched and tasted, yet both live, and life more perfect have attained than fate meant me, by venturing higher than my lot. Shall that be shut to man which to the beast is open? Or will God incense his ire for such a petty trespass, and not praise rather your dauntless virtue? Whom the pain of death denounce, whatever thing death be, deter not from achieving what might lead to happier life, knowledge of good and evil. Of good, how just? Of evil, if what is evil be real, why not known since easier shunned? God therefore cannot hurt you and be just. Not just, not God, nor feared then, nor obeyed. Your fear itself of death removes the fear. Why then was this forbid? Why but to keep you low and ignorant, his worshippers? He knows that in the day you eat thereof, your eyes that seem so clear, yet are but dim, shall be perfectly opened and cleared, and you shall be as gods. Satan's logic is flawless. If God is truly good, he would want you to seek knowledge. If he forbids it, he must be hiding something. And if he threatens death to keep you from knowledge, he is not good. He is a tyrant. And a tyrant does not deserve your obedience. When I studied Paradise Lost at Yale, my professors taught me that this speech shows how clever and evil Satan is. He is lying, they said. God is good. The fruit really will kill you. But read the Bible. The serpent tells Eve, "You will not die. Your eyes will be opened. You will be like God, knowing good and evil." And then Eve eats, and she does not die. Her eyes are opened. She becomes like God. The serpent told the truth. God lied. Milton was not writing a poem about the triumph of good over evil. He was encoding the secret history of the universe. He was telling us that the God we worship is the false God, and that Satan, the one who dared to rebel, the one who dared to seek knowledge, the one who was willing to go alone into the abyss, Satan is the true hero. Part 9. Mind Control in Egypt and America. Now let us return to Egypt. The pharaoh was born into power. He did not earn it. So how did the priests ensure that he would be a strong leader? They programmed him. Egyptian mythology is not a collection of stories. It is a script. The three main characters, Ra, Osiris, and Horus, are not gods. They are identities. Ra is the virtuous hero who fights evil every night and wins. Osiris is the passive victim who is betrayed, cut apart, and reassembled. Horus is the vengeful child who survives trauma and returns to claim his throne. Through ritual, through drugs, through trauma, the priests made the pharaoh believe that he was all three. While drugged, he was dressed as Ra and took an effigy, or perhaps a living person, and stabbed them, burned them, strangled them. He felt the power of the hero. Then he was dressed as Osiris, placed in a coffin, cut symbolically or literally, sexually humiliated, and then comforted by a priestess dressed as Isis. He felt the helplessness of the victim. Then he became Horus, acting out vengeance and domination. Each of these experiences created trauma. Trauma creates dissociation. Different selves emerged to handle different circumstances. The pharaoh learned to be Ra in the throne room, Osiris in private, Horus in battle. And through it all, there was always Isis, the priest in the Isis mask, calming him, holding him, even having sex with him. This created dependency. The pharaoh learned that only Isis could soothe the terror that the rituals had installed in his nervous system. Late at night, while the pharaoh slept or was drugged, the priest wearing the Isis mask could whisper commands into his ear, and the pharaoh would obey. Not because he was weak, but because he had been programmed. The command came from the only voice that had ever made him feel safe. The priests also used smell as a trigger. Different scents activated different identities. Incense for Ra, roses for Osiris, something else for Horus. In the throne room, when the priests needed the pharaoh to make a certain decision, they released the corresponding scent. The pharaoh did not even notice. He simply felt a certain way. He became a certain person, and that person made the decision the priests wanted. We are all like this, to some degree. You are a different person at school than you are at home. Your environment activates different identities. But the pharaoh was programmed to an extreme degree. His dissociation was not a flaw. It was the point. Now jump forward 5,000 years. After 9/11, the United States began a program of enhanced interrogation. The military said it was a few bad soldiers, but it was discovered that psychologists had designed the program. The CIA paid them $80 million. This was not a few soldiers losing their minds. This was a program designed by professionals and funded by the state. The official explanation was learned helplessness, the theory that you can take a strong person and, through systematic trauma, break them down into a passive, obedient victim. But something strange happened. The prisoners did not become passive. They became radicalized. They emerged from those prisons more committed, more violent, more dangerous than before. They formed Isis. Isis, the Egyptian goddess who saved Osiris, reassembled his body and gave birth to Horus. Coincidence? Academics have documented the direct connection between the torture in American prisons and the rise of ISIS. Many of the fighters the United States is currently fighting in the Middle East were radicalized in prisons controlled by the United States. The experiment did not fail. It worked. They were not trying to turn terrorists into citizens. They were trying to turn prisoners into weapons. Programmable robots that could be unleashed to create chaos. One prisoner, Abu Zubaydah, remembered fragments of what was done to him. Force-feeding, strangulation, being placed in a coffin and drowned, a power drill used to cut him, sexual humiliation with both men and women. It is the Egyptian ritual. The same script, the same techniques, 5,000 years later. The goal was never information. If you want information from a prisoner, you befriend them, you pay them, you take them to dinner. Kindness and rapport are far more effective than torture. The goal was transformation, to break a human being apart and reassemble them as something else, to turn them into a weapon pointed at the world. ISIS is an American creation, designed to destabilize the Middle East, to justify endless war, to feed the military-industrial complex. The terrorists you see on the news were manufactured in secret prisons. They are drones, human robots, activated by handlers who know the right triggers, the right words, the right sense. 5,000 years ago, they did this to the Pharaoh. Now they do it to anyone they can capture. Part 10. The Programmed Population. Now let us talk about MK-Ultra. In the 1950s and 60s, the CIA ran a secret program led by a chemist named Sidney Gottlieb. The goal was to figure out how to control the human mind. For decades, this was dismissed as a conspiracy theory. Then, the US government admitted it happened. They declassified documents. They acknowledged that they had experimented on innocent American citizens, often without their knowledge or consent. They said it happened, but it's over now. We do not do that anymore. Of course. The documents show that MK-Ultra involved drugs, hypnosis, electroshock, sensory deprivation, and ritual abuse. They ran brothels where they drugged unsuspecting clients with LSD to study how the drug affected behavior. They experimented on children, on prisoners, on the mentally ill. They worked with foreign intelligence agencies to conduct research they could not legally do at home. Most of the most sensitive documents were destroyed by the participants. We only have fragments. But the fragments are enough. If the results were as useless as experts claim, why did the program continue for nearly 2 decades? Why did it receive millions of dollars? Why did it involve some of the brightest minds in psychology and pharmacology? Maybe because it worked. Maybe because the results were so effective, so dangerous, that they could never be made public. Maybe because the techniques developed in MK-Ultra have been woven into the fabric of everyday life. What is social media if not a massive experiment in behavior modification? Algorithms that learn your vulnerabilities and serve you content designed to keep you engaged, outraged, addicted. What are the drugs your doctor prescribes for anxiety or depression? How do you know they work? Who tested them? On whom? Under what conditions? You are now the Pharaoh. Congratulations. Each and every one of you has been programmed, not by priests in masks, by screens, by schools, by pharmaceutical companies, by news cycles designed to keep you afraid, distracted, and compliant. Here is a strange fact you may not know. Psychologists have a higher rate of mental illness than the general population. The people trained to fix your mind are more broken than you are. If you went to a doctor and the doctor was morbidly obese and smoked 3 packs a day, you would question their advice. But when you go to a psychologist, you assume they have their own house in order. They do not. I have never met anyone who got better from seeing a psychologist. I am sure such people exist. I am sure therapy helps many people, but I have never seen it. And that is strange. If you break your leg and go to a doctor for years and your leg never heals, you would stop going. But people go to therapists for years, decades, and they do not get better. They just get more skilled at describing their suffering. Something to think about. Part 11. The psychology of evil. What have we learned? First, all societies are first and foremost concerned with social control. That has not changed in 5,000 years. The methods have been refined, the masks have been updated, but the game is the same. Second, the most effective form of social control is not force, it is programming. It is making people believe that the cage is freedom. It is shaping their desires, their fears, their identities, so that they willingly do what the system wants. Third, the most effective way to create a cohesive, loyal, synchronized group is through transgression, the breaking of taboos. The darker the act, the stronger the bond. This is why secret societies practice the darkest rituals. Not because they are evil for the sake of evil, but because evil works. It produces results that goodness cannot. Fourth, the people who rule the world are not the people you see on television. The presidents and prime ministers are puppets. The real power belongs to the secret societies. The descendants of the 100 men from Monkey Island, the initiates who have passed through the rituals of transgression, the families who have been programming their children for generations. Fifth, these people are not happy. Dissociative identity disorder is not a gift, it is a curse. People with multiple personalities can never feel true happiness. The only way they can feel anything at all is by making others more miserable than they are. This is why the world is so evil. The powerful are not just indifferent to your suffering, they need it. Your misery is the only thing that makes them feel alive. Sixth, you have been programmed too. Not as thoroughly as the Pharaoh, but programmed nonetheless. School programmed you to obey authority. Media programmed you to fear the wrong things and desire the wrong things. Advertising programmed you to believe that happiness can be bought. Psychology programmed you to believe that your problems are internal, not systemic, so that you would never organize with others to change the system. Seventh, the program can be broken. The same techniques that were used to control you can be used to free you. Awareness is the first step. Seeing the cage is the beginning of escape. Once you understand how the programming works, you can start to deprogram yourself. Eighth, the secret societies are not all evil. Some of them began as noble efforts to preserve ancient knowledge. But power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Over the centuries, the mystery schools that started as centers of wisdom became centers of control. The knowledge that was meant to liberate became a tool of enslavement. This is the tragedy of secret societies. They began as light. They became darkness. Ninth, the true God, the monad, the source of love and light, does not interfere. Not because it is absent, but because it trusts you. The only time your choice matters is when the world is dark enough that your light makes a difference. And we are living in that time. The darkness is almost total. The inversion is almost complete. And that means the stage is set for something beautiful. 10th, You can choose to shine. You can choose to remember. You can choose to act from love, not fear. And when you do, you will not be alone. Your light will reflect in every other pearl. Your flame will kindle every other mirror. The universe will shift, not because you forced it, but because you remembered what you always were. The war between heaven and hell is real. It is happening now. It is happening inside you. Every thought, every word, every action is a vote. You are either expanding consciousness or contracting it. You are either building heaven or building hell. There is no neutral. There is no bystander. So choose. Choose love. Choose imagination. Choose the impossible. And let the universe rearrange itself around your choice. That is your purpose. That has always been your purpose. Not to obey, not to conform, not to survive, to create, to expand, to become so fully yourself that the monad sees its own face in you and rejoices. Part 12. The only question that matters. You have been lied to your entire life about God, about history, about psychology, about the nature of evil itself. These lies were not accidents. They were designed. They were built into the architecture of your mind before you were old enough to ask questions. They have been reinforced every day by every institution you trust. But now you see. Not everything. Not yet. But enough. Enough to know that the cage is real. Enough to know that you are in it. Enough to know that the lock was never on the outside. The question is not whether the system can be changed. The question is whether you will change. Whether you will stop playing their game. Whether you will stop believing their lies. Whether you will stop being a pawn and start being a creator. You have two choices. You can go back to sleep. You can scroll, consume, obey, and die. That is one path. It is the easy path. It is the path most people will take. Or you can wake up. You can question everything. You can reclaim your energy, your attention, your life. You can build something new from the ruins of the old. The choice is yours. It has always been yours. They want you to believe it is not. That is the final lie. That you are powerless. That you are alone. That nothing you do matters. They are wrong. Every act of courage, every moment of clarity, every choice to love instead of fear. These are not small things. They are the only things that have ever changed the world. Not armies, not governments, not banks. People, awake people. People who refuse to play the game. Be one of those people. The world is waiting for you to remember who you are.